All right, welcome to this meeting of the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, May 11th, 2022. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. The meeting will come to order. Can we call the roll, please?
First Congressional District Commissioner Kevin Potter.
Aye.
Second Congressional District Commissioner David Conway.
Here.
Third Congressional District Commissioner Charles Ortega. Fourth Congressional District Commissioner Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Chairman Jerry Hunter.
Present. We have a quorum. The draft of the minutes for the April 13th, 2022 meeting was sent to you on Monday. A copy is in your meeting packet. Are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed? If not, I will accept motion to approve the minutes as distributed. Call the roll. Call the roll, please.
Do you need a second?
I need a second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Conway.
Abstain.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye. The motion passes. The next order of business is item 4, approval to fill position. Director Arties, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Secretary. Good morning. How's everybody doing this morning? Hopefully well. Wanted to present this item to you today. I think you may have noticed, or maybe you hadn't, that Courtney Finney hasn't been with us for some time. Courtney left about 6 months ago for a wonderful opportunity in the Oklahoma Department of Health, I think, yeah. And great career advancing opportunity for him, and he gave the Aeronautics Commission some wonderful service in his years here at the agency. In the spirit of modernization at the end of Courtney's tenure, we went forward with trying to figure out could we use shared services. And obviously as part of the modernization effort that Secretary Gatz has spearheaded for the last, I think we're going on 3 years now, maybe two and a half, somewhere in there. How could we utilize that to help out the agency? And that worked for a subset of what Courtney's duties and responsibilities, creating POs, paying invoices, so on and so forth. But I think what we found in that 6 months was the other duties, the other responsibilities of that position, especially in an agency like ours, ended up getting delegated to other staff. Obviously, we had to maintain our mission at the agency, and I think we kind of came to the conclusion several months ago that, look, I don't know that this is going to work to be able to have this level of staff do these other duties for a permanent stature. That as a temporary method to hold us over, it worked, but for the long term, it didn't. And so we ended up, we didn't contract with, but we utilized the Business Process and Operations Center of Excellence that the OMES has to really do a deep dive to what the state agencies can utilize for various resources in various different activities. And I think what we are looking at is trying to make sure that the Aeronautics Commission, we can continue to serve our constituency, which is the aviation aerospace industry. We can still pay our invoices while also not burdening the existing staff that we have beyond their traditional duties, responsibilities that they're expected to do on a regular and routine basis. And so we're here before you today. Obviously, it's the first step of the process to request your approval to fill the position. I know Secretary Gatz, I believe, has a few things he wants to add on the modernization in the Business Process Center of Excellence that OMES has stood up. And I have to say they are a wonderful help. In fact, we had a conversation with them not too long ago, and we're going to look at some of the other areas to maybe see if we can improve some of our efficiencies and some of our processes and procedures, all with the guise of trying to be more efficient, more effective, and more studious in the way we serve the aviation aerospace industry and as part of the overall transportation cabinet. So that's the end of my remarks, Mr. Secretary. I don't know if you like to say a few words.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Absolutely, sir.
I think when you look at the work that the governor's done, specifically, he's had a pretty narrow focus on trying to improve government efficiency. That's something that's been important to us in the Transportation Cabinet. As Grayson points out, the cabinet agencies have been working now for about 2 years, maybe a little over, on modernization initiatives to see how we can use the resources we have available to us more effectively. Also, we've been really putting a lot of focus on innovation and also on process improvement. You know, how can we use the resources more effectively? Certainly, this was an area, and this position in particular was one that we had looked at to see if we could leverage and share resources. I think there's certainly some functions in the context of the position that we can do that. We have engaged that, and that's something else that really has been a useful tool for agencies and government, is this Business Process Operations Center of Excellence. And again, that's something that was stood up to provide us with some resources at the state level to be able to look at ourselves and get that third set of eyes on what we're doing to try to make sure that we're operating as effectively as we can. I think all of us feel like we're doing a good job sometimes, but sometimes we're too close to it to really understand if we're being effective or not. And again, they're engaged right now. Grace and I believe we've got a meeting next Thursday to do a report out with the group that, again, has really taken a high-level look at the operations so far. So I'm looking forward to that report out, kind of talking a little bit more about what next steps might look like. And but again, this has been something that, to the governor's credit, you know, he's come in and said we really need to take a hard look at all government operations, not just the transportation cabinet. So I think every agency is really taking a hard look at themselves, and this is a big part of it. And it's something that the transportation cabinet has taken very seriously, and this is just kind of another step down that path. But it's something that we ought to do. And again, I'm looking forward to next Thursday. We'll talk a little bit in more detail about, you know, what exactly the duties of this position might look like in the future. You know, and again, I think that report out's going to be an important decision-making tool to figure out if there's a further engagement, if we want to take that to the next step, and then exactly how we want to move forward with this position. But just wanted to offer a little bit of perspective for the commission.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff does recommend approval for moving forward, but I will stand for any questions, and I will say that we certainly appreciate your consideration of filling this position, because it is important. The roles are, the duties are, the responsibilities are to the continued success of the agency, as well as ensuring that our current staff don't feel too overwhelmed. And I will say that, you know, I was left this agency in good hands by our predecessor. I think everybody here knows Director Byrd ran a very, very lean and tight ship. And I've tried to continue that, running a very lean and tight ship. And that's something we, as an agency, can be very proud of in state government. I know I don't want to hammer any other agencies out there, but I feel like we are at the upper echelon of being able to run a very, very efficient ship. And I look forward to seeing what other efficiencies we can improve on down the flight path. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'll stand for any questions.
Director, is this an established pay band, or how does this fit in with the rest of your positions?
It is. This is an existing position within our task order. We've had this for, golly, as long as I've been at the commission, so since 2009. It is the established pay band, probably in the, I would say, high 40s to low 60s range would be the pay range for this position.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Observation is that procurement and finance are a large part of what we do on all these airport projects, so I don't know how we're stumbling along without that being covered. So.
I appreciate that comment, Mr. Commissioner, and it's we certainly are not abdicating our duty. We are certainly doing it, but I think the stumbling along analogy is probably a good one. We are keeping our head above water.
Well, I, for one, am extremely appreciative of Governor Stitt and Secretary Yates for being responsible with our tax dollars. It doesn't seem like that happens enough in government at any level anymore. And it's nice to see them do the right thing at our state level.
I would concur, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any further questions? If there are none, do we have a motion to approve filling this position?
Move approval?
Second.
Can we Call the roll, please.
Certainly. Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Conway.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next order of business is item 5, the director's report. Director Arties, please give us that report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been a fun month. I know we have been meeting monthly. Seems like now for the first part of the year. I promise you that will end. We will not have a meeting in June unless, of course, something happens to pop up and we just have to have that meeting. So we'll go ahead and knock on a little bit of that, and hopefully we'll see everybody in July. But great last 30 days here since our March commission or our April commission meeting. Met with the new Secretary of Military and Veterans Affairs, John Nash. Very educated gentleman. Had some good conversations how we insert ourselves into the military defense sphere. Obviously, that having a very big, important role within the military aviation sector. Tinker Air Force Base being the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but there's lots of other military aviation sectors. And so we had a good, long-standing relationship with Secretary Ben Robinson, who has served the state in I don't know how many different capacities. His resume could probably kill a printer, to be candid with you. But wanted to continue that relationship with the new secretary and explain to them some of the things that we have going on. Obviously, first and foremost is the protection of military training airspace and our issues over the long-standing years and now decade of tall structures, the cell phone towers, wind turbines, encroachment off the ends of runways from housing developments and other incompatible items. Wanted to explain to him the process, how we interact with our partners at the Strategic Military Planning Commission, and moving forward, and of course ensuring that Commissioner Ortega and the legislation he was able to champion is well carried out under the new leadership of Secretary Nash. He was able to attend our Aero Day at the Capitol before I think he was officially either nominated or sworn in, and was very excited to see what we were able to bring to the table. And so we'll continue meeting with Secretary Nash and explaining to him the role of the Aeronautics Commission and how we can help military aviation in ensuring that our military and our veterans within the aviation aerospace sphere are attended to here in the great state of Oklahoma. I followed that on April 15th, pretty neat and exciting ceremony, the B-52 High Bay dedication, which coincided with the 70th anniversary of the first flight of the Buff. And yes, I am wearing the pin here on my lapel. It was an amazing facility out there. If you all hadn't seen the news stories or understand what the High Bay operation is, basically they've taken an old B-52, and some of you all may have seen that news story, and I'm sure Secretary Gatz experienced some of that as it traveled down our interstates and our highways, of them moving an old B-52 out of the boneyard here to Oklahoma. I'm sure we could hear from stories of how fun that was, given the smile on the Secretary's face. But move that here to Oklahoma. The goal being, we're not going to put this bird back in service. In fact, it's only got one wing on it. But the goal being, how can Boeing work on this bird for process improvement, manufacturing parts, repairing parts, fixing issues, without taking a B-52 out of service that is going out there to project air power across our country and across the world. And so they're going to use this B-52, they're going to chop her up, cut her up, put parts on her, try and figure out what exactly it is that she needs to be able to sustain, so that can then be put onto the actual B-52s across the street at Tinker Air Force Base as they're undergoing extreme heavy maintenance. And of course, we know they're getting a brand new set of engines and lots of other great avionics and improvements. And this is going to be a 100-year airplane. Who knows? We were just talking before the commission meeting. Who knows how long it's going to be when it finally does retire? I don't even want to fathom a guess, because I'm sure those that have fathomed guesses before have all been wrong, and I'd be proven wrong as well. So great airplane, great ceremony, and thanks to Boeing for their investment and dedication in Oklahoma City and our defense industry here in the metro area. Also on that same day, it was a busy day, went to the FISTA. That's the Fires Innovation Science and Technology Accelerator. They are constructing their innovation park in the old Lawton Mall, which is a pretty interesting repurposement of the mall. Of course, we had several guest speakers there, Congressman Tom Cole, representative from Senator Inhofe's office, Mayor Stan Booker, as well as several other entities that were standing this FISTA concept up. This is a fairly new concept within the defense world, but given some of the things that they're going to be doing within the aerial realm, especially the unmanned aircraft realm, we wanted to be there to support them and show them that the state of Oklahoma is willing and able to help however they can, because it is a great asset to the state of Oklahoma, albeit not specifically aviation aerospace. They are going to have a lot of aviation aerospace opportunities and a lot of testing and research and flying things going on down there. So great opportunity. Several INHOF staffers came to Oklahoma the week of April 18th, and on the 19th, we took out Victor Sarmiento, their legislative assistant, and Naomi Walker, their legislative correspondent, to visit several airports. We started off with visiting our great spaceport in western Oklahoma and checking out what that has to offer, followed up by Clinton Regional and seeing some of the damage the tornado had to that particular facility out in western Oklahoma. They were hit by a tornado several months ago and are still in the process of damage control and reconstruction and rehabilitation, what they had going on there. So great opportunity, and then followed up with a visit to the Weatherford Stafford Air and Space Museum, which I know you all got to experience after our April meeting, and got to show the INHOF delegation that little crown jewel in western Oklahoma, which truly is a crown jewel of just Oklahoma in general. We had the Air and Space Forces Association. That's commonly referred to as the AFA. They've added the word space, of course, as we know, bringing in space to the Air Force. Legislative reception at the OSU facility just down the road here, the beautiful Ham Energy facility, on April 19th. Heard from our Air Force Association partners, some of our military partners, and some of our legislators that were able to attend that as well. Followed that up with the MRO Americas Conference, April 26th and 27th. Thomas Galloway and I were able to attend, and of course Sandra Shelton had to make an audible at the last moment to stay back in the state to deal with some of the bills that I know she's going to tell you about here later in the agenda. But great conference at the MRO Americas. It's kind of night and day difference. MRO Americas last year in April was the first conference that really in aviation aerospace, first conference coming back out of COVID. And it was down. It was down probably about 30 or 40%. And just seeing the difference between that show in Orlando and this show here in Dallas in our backyard was absolutely amazing. So great opportunities there. The Department of Commerce and the ACES team was able to make a company announcement. Air Transport Components is moving or expanding an operation to Oklahoma. They're an Arizona-based company doing MRO facilities. They're going to expand up into Tulsa, going to be based in a 50,000 square foot facility. It's not on the airport, it's off airport, and they plan to employ about 50 different people doing anything from coatings to rehabs to parts manufacturing, so on and so forth. So great announcement there, and all of our meetings that we were able to have throughout that, both from an economic development perspective, which is why we're there trying to help our Department of Commerce and the ACES team recruit that new business to Oklahoma, but also the companies that are there that are trying to meet with suppliers and business individuals trying to sell their parts as well. So great opportunities there at MRO Americas, and we're glad to see that we're kind of on the uptrend, and we're really kind of coming out of COVID. It really didn't even feel different than pre-COVID MRO Americas conferences. And then lastly, but certainly not least, I was able to present, thanks to Representative Nicole Miller, to the Legislative Women's Caucus Transportation Luncheon at the Capitol on May 3rd. Talked with Carla Sloan with the Chi Boys Area Transit System, as well as our very close friend James Grimsley with the Choctaw Nation, to talk about up-and-coming transportation technologies and all the things that are happening within the transportation sector, from public transportation to UAS, AAM, all the way on to electrification of aircraft, supersonic transport, hypersonic transport, space flight. We kind of ran the gamut of transportation technologies and what's on the horizon and what's up and coming. And of course, the big thing that we always talk about is, us as humans, we are fallible. We are fallible, and the more technology we can involve in the systems, the more technology we can involve in our driving systems, our flying systems, whatever it might be, is going to help improve the lives and the livelihoods of all Oklahomans, all Americans really, as we try and increase that safety factor. We in aviation, we've been doing it for years and years, and I think surface transportation is starting to see that, and that's something that I know James Grimsley emphasizes on a routine and regular basis that, you know, the person in the driver's seat of that car can be sometimes the most dangerous thing that's out there. And so as we get more technology, and that was one of the things that spurred the conversation of, okay, what does transportation technology look like 10, 20, 30 years from now? Are we all going to be just sitting in a car, letting the car drive itself? Is it going to be kind of a combination where we're watching the car? And then same thing for the airplane. Are we going to be flying the airplane? Are there even going to be pilots in the cockpit 10, 20, 30 years from now? I think technologically, yes, and that was part of the good question and answer period was technologically, yes, I think we can get there. The question is psychologically, are we as humans going to be able to accept that a computer is flying the plane or driving the car, and that we are no longer as humans in control of it? So great opportunity there. I thank Representative Miller for allowing me to present and share some of our aviation aerospace accolades from the Aeronautics Commission and what we see the future of aviation aerospace going to be for our state and for our country. So that concludes my director's report, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Secretary, but I will stand for any questions.
Yes, sir.
If I might, a couple things, and Grayson talked a little bit about James Grimsley and what he brings from really an innovation perspective. And I want to appreciate Grayson and his staff. We have a Advanced Mobility Advisory Council that was statutorily created a couple of years ago. We've been having regular meetings. James is a part of that group, and Grayson and his team have done an excellent job helping to staff that advisory council. And some of the subject matter that Grayson talked about are the things that we're into, whether that's surface, whether that's unmanned aerial systems, what we're seeing out there in the transportation sector. But the one thing I'd tell you, and you know, being kind of more on the surface transportation side, but it's a challenge that I think we're going to have to manage to, whether it's air or whether it's surface, is we're going to have to manage that fully autonomous vehicle, whether that's a truck, whether that's a passenger vehicle. We're going to have to deal with vehicles that have some technology, you know, so they've got some telematics and some driver assist technologies. And then you're going to have to manage to me and my Silverado pickup that doesn't have any of it. And we're going to have to deal with it all at the same time. And I think whether you're talking about what we're doing in the aerospace and aviation industry, or whether you're talking about what we're going to have to manage out on our highway system, it's going to be one of the most challenging times that we've seen, because the disruptive technologies are coming forward faster than ever before. We've got to do our best to try to stay ahead of it, but I think right now, and the work that the Aeronautics Commission is doing, that our Advanced Mobility Council is doing, what we're trying to do is position Oklahoma better to be able to address those types of situations on all fronts, and position ourselves so we don't miss opportunities. So we're embracing the technology, not standing in the way of it. And again, I wanted to recognize Grayson and his team for doing such a great job and being part of that effort. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any other questions or comments from our commissioners?
Thank you all.
If not, our next item on the agenda is item 6, legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Sandra, can you please give us your report?
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Secretary. Team Aeronautics had a pretty good year at the legislature, and so I'm going to report to you on that. In your packets, there's a cheat sheet here that will help you follow along with me. Senate Bill 258 was approved by the governor on May 2nd, and Senate Bill 258 removed language that was placed on the Aeronautics Commission in 2015 that took over $4.5 million of the aircraft excise tax funding that's given to the Aeronautics Commission. That went into general revenue, and so they've repealed that language, and now 100% of funds collected by the tax commission to the aircraft excise tax fund will go to the Aeronautics Commission, so we're really excited about that. Well, you can share that now. I will tell you this, that was 5 years of work, and I know that Secretary Gatz understands that. And we were in the final hours on Wednesday, the day before bill filing deadline. I saw Monty in the hallway, and I said, Monty, I may need some lift. I've got 3 bills on the House floor, and the House floor leader was my author. And so I just appreciate any lift. I don't know if Monty visited with them, but we worked really, really hard. And Commissioner Ortega can tell you that you have to go gently in that building. And that's, sometimes I just want to go and shout, hey, we need this. And you just have to go very gently. And so pleased with Senator Racino's work and Representative Eccles' work on that bill. Senate Bill 1147 is just great. Senate Bill 1147 was approved by the governor on April 29th, and this bill allows the State Department of Education to provide aviation core credits, and I'm sure Ms. Keady will talk more about that. So we are waiting for the Department of Education to call us. So if they are watching, we're sitting by the phone. So we've been waiting for this for 3 years, and Senator Taylor, who's a pilot at Seminole, who is not seeking re-election, was our author, and Representative Nicole Miller. So we are so grateful for that as well. Senate Bill 1461 creates the Commercial Air Services Grants Program within the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission, and that was signed by the governor on May 4th, and I'm sure Director Arties will speak more to what that might look like.
Go ahead.
Okay. Senate Bill 1781 was presented by Senator Rader and Representative Talley. And 20 years ago, the legislature did something called Truth in Sentencing. I'm sure Secretary Gatz remembers this, where, everything was aligned in the court system. And so this is what I call truth in aircraft registration. They just want to make sure that whatever you're registering your aircraft for really is. And so this was not a request bill by the Aeronautics Commission, but we did watch this closely, and we did visit with Senator Rader and also Representative Talley and provided some advisement to them on that. Senate Bill 1747 was an aerial applicator bill that did not go. It was bogged down in Senate Judiciary, and so we attended a couple of interim studies last year regarding that, and it's regarding overspray on cannabis farms and from aerial applicators. So I'm sure we will see something like that again in the future. Senate Bill 1827 by Senator Bullard. We visited with him early in the session. This was a pretty neat bill that he came up with on his own. Senator Bullard just got his pilot's license in December of 2021, and so he came up with this idea. Hopefully we can work with him over the summer and bring something back to the legislature next year. So you might want to explore that bill, and I'm happy to send you the link. But basically, it was creating a Fly Oklahoma grant program, and so Director Arties and I will probably visit with him sometime this fall about that. Senate Bill 1830 succumbed to the House deadline on Thursday, and they ran out of time. And so we were disappointed that cleanup language did not go through, but we'll be back. So also, House Bill 3171 is a drone privacy bill that the Aeronautics Commission is watching. And Doug, I'm not sure if Doug's speaking today. No? Okay. Doug and I went to the Capitol and visited with some people about this bill, and so we are watching this to see what is happening. And they've added some aerial trespass language, and so that's now in the House. So we're looking at that, Mr. Secretary, and I'm watching that as well. So the only other thing that I have to report is that I saw Chairman Thompson recently, and he said that he did expect the Aeronautics Commission to receive another appropriation. So we're not sure what those numbers are. I've visited with Representative Miller, and so we'll see what happens on that too. Director Artie may have more information, or Secretary Gatz might have more information. I believe the budget negotiations are occurring now, and they thought they were going to sign it early, but I'm not sure now. So we'll see. All right, I yield for any questions. Happy to answer anything that you might have.
Sandra, I want to thank you for your hard work getting that cap removed. That's really remarkable accomplishment.
Thank you. It took all of us. It took every single one of us. So I thank you guys. And I do want to say that Senator Racino has just been an incredible champion for us. Senator Pugh is also very helpful to us, but he is tireless. We take him some really tough hauls, and he just continues to be in the fight for us. And so I just wanted to publicly thank him for that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Sandra was being a little reserved, but I do think we owe her a little round of applause. We know how hard 258 has been to get across the hump, and I thank you, Mr. Secretary. I thank the commissioners for all the work that you all have done, plugging people, plugging the governor, and really just helping to get this across the finish line. So we are disappointed that we didn't go out for a perfect hit. We missed on Senate Bill 1830. I think we are going to try and come back better, bigger, stronger. We got maybe an interim study that's going to happen this summer that we'll talk about. At the end of the day, 1830 was some cleanup language. It's still in statute. That Advanced Mobility Council program is still there. And I think this summer we'll have more time, more attentive look to what do we need to do to make this even bigger? Because we were just kind of revising a slice of the pie. And so now how can we go revise the whole pie? But at the end of the day, I think what you're starting to see at the Capitol, and we've seen this for the last 3 or 4 years, is excitement around aviation aerospace. People are finally starting to realize that we need to be attentive on all forms and facets of aviation aerospace. And so the Commercial Air Service Bill, helping us get new direct routes, extremely important. The Core Credit Bill, which wasn't really an Aeronautics Commission request bill to begin with, but thank you, Senator Taylor, and thank you, Representative Miller, for seeing the importance of what that means to the AOPA high school curriculum. At the end of the day, I think we are starting to see I would say maybe getting to the peak of the mountain to where, and we're not going to go over the other side, we're just going to keep it going up and flat there on top of the plateau, that aviation aerospace is going to get its due regard at the Capitol. And it's thanks to the staff, it's thanks to Sandra, who's been now 6 years hitting that and beating that drumbeat at the Capitol. But they're starting to realize how important aviation aerospace is, not just because we like it or because it's cool, and I know I'm a little biased, but because it means something to the state of Oklahoma. This can help diversify our economy and help smooth out the boom and bust cycles of having a commodity-based economy. And so I think we see that, and I think the legislatures are seeing that, and hopefully in the next 5-10 years, who knows where bills and support are going to go, but I suspect it's only going to go up from here. So thank you all, but thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Grayson. Our next order of business is our financial report, item 7. Chris, we're ready for your report, sir.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Starting out with the financial summary document, as of the end of April, the Commission had an ending cash balance of $9.4 million and outstanding encumbrances totaled $6.1. Estimated statutory revenues for the remainder of FY22, which ends on June 30th, is about $370,000, and outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency is just under $1.5 million. The amount of the remaining expenditures in the airport construction program that could be incurred this fiscal year totals about $3.3 million, provided those grants are approved. So that does leave us with an expected available cash balance of just under $1.9 million. And then total fiscal year to date expenditures during FY22 are $4.2 million. Moving on to the revenue document. Total statutory revenue collected for the month of April was $187,472. Again, continues our trend of some lower months here recently. Total statutory revenue collected through the end of April of this fiscal year was 4.4, which compares to 4.5 for the same time frame last year. A little bit of context there. This is the first month we've been down year over year since the fiscal year began back in July. Last April, we had one of our largest monthly tax collections ever. Excise tax was just under 1.4 due to a couple of planes that were bought by some local companies. So we're kind of hitting that point last year. We were down all year until April hit, and then we finished the year strong. So just a little bit of context there of why the change. And then finally, on the 3-year average chart there, you'll see that we are still up about 78,000 more than our 3-year average. But again, that gap is closed over the last few months. Again, primarily due to last April. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. Next item is item 8, Airspace and Aviation Education Program Update. Ms. Paula?
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
recognized.
Chairman, Mr. Secretary, and Commissioners. It's been a busy month for aviation education as schools are closing, and we've all been working to meet the May 31st AOPA application deadline for next school year, and so I have been working with as many schools as possible. But we've also begun work on implementing the FAA 625 pilot workforce grant. And one component of that was to fully help the 5 aviation high schools of excellence develop a laboratory that they can be used as a hub for new schools. And so we were able to provide each of those 5 schools with about a little over $19,000 worth of equipment and supplies, ranging from simulators to drones to ground school materials, those kinds of things. Yeoman's work by Mr. Wadsworth and Ms. Bozaden, who ordered all of those materials. They were delivered to ODOT warehouse. We were able to meet on April 20th at the warehouse and welcome the school personnel came in to pick up their new supplies and equipment, and they were very excited, needless to say. When you give them a gift to help them improve their STEM education, it was excellent. On April 22nd, I did attend the Tulsa Chamber of Commerce Aerospace Council meeting at Nordam. I was able to present information about the AOPA high school curriculum, and Crystal McGuire from ATEC was able to talk to them about the Choose Aerospace maintenance curriculum so that the Tulsa area industry folks would know what the 2 major curriculums are available, the pilot and drone curriculum and the maintenance curriculum. And so Tulsa folks at the Tulsa Chamber are really interested in their schools getting on board with what's going on in Oklahoma. So I was able to talk to them about that. Also, we're moving forward on the preparations for the AOPA Teacher Professional Development Workshop that will be held at OU July 11th through 14th. I spoke to you about that last month. We'll have about 100. They've offered us 50 spots. And so our 50 teachers, right now we have 40 registered, and we have spots for 10 more teachers to attend, and then there'll be 50 other attendees from across the United States. And as I also said, we're the first state outside of Frederick, Maryland, the home of AOPA, to be asked to host the professional development. So we're really honored and pleased about that. So we're putting the final touches and getting ready for that. We're also begun planning for our second grant event, which will be a Superintendent's Counselors Conference to be held in Durant at the Choctaw Nation and in conjunction with Southeastern Aviation. I've always, and you've heard me say this before, I firmly believe now we have all these schools, we have to show them how to lead those students to post-secondary opportunities, whether it's at the university, whether it's at Career Tech for A&P, whatever it is. Our counselors and our school leaders need to know what's the next step. How do we get them? And that's what this conference will be about. And so we're going to invite our AOPA schools, our superintendents and leaders, and our counselors to Durant on July 19th. And as I just mentioned, I'm finishing up my work as fast as my little car will take me to as many places I can get to visit with these school leaders. Since we last met, I have met with Piedmont Public Schools, and they've been approved to teach. They went to Ada early this morning to tour the Ada lab and to talk to the teacher there. Again, I'm most appreciative. Pryor and Ada and Okmulgee and Mustang, all of them have opened their doors to any of these new schools saying, come and let's talk. Let's talk about how we're implementing this curriculum. So Piedmont is on board. Clinton Public Schools is on board and has been approved. As of this week, Putnam City North High School has been approved and signed up. And so we just continue to add. Last Friday, I met at the Claremore Airport and I was very appreciative of the airport manager there at Claremore, who said, let me set this up. I'm bringing in Chelsea Public Schools. And so it's beginning to work the other way. Instead of I'm just talking to school leaders, our airport managers, our workforce development committees are calling me and saying, let us get together, help us get together with our schools. And so as we finish up, I think you had that map up there, Sandra. Right now we're at about 53 schools. That makes me happy to look at that map. It also shows us what work we need to continue to do as we move We've added quite a few schools in western Oklahoma just in the last month, and we will work to go to the Guyman area as we've talked about. So I'm really pleased with that number. And right now, as I mentioned last month, we do lead the nation in the number of schools that are teaching a high school curriculum. So it's very exciting, really exciting. Thank you. And then finally, the last thing I will mention is I've worked for several years and served on the AOPA National Steering Committee for the high school curriculum. The chairman of that committee is Lee Szynski from the Blue Sky Educational Foundation. And he called me and he said, Paul, I've got one high school spot left for the Oshkosh Air Adventure Advanced Camp. And I will pay the airfare, Blue Skies will pay the airfare, the lodging, the meals, if you can quickly find us a student to go. And so I put it out there for our 5 aviation schools because we didn't have time to make a blanket application, and had some schools nominate students, and then we did a random selection. The young man, Travis Muse from Ada High School, actually it turned out was the high school student that helped us at Aero, Oklahoma, and introduced all the guest speakers and was the MC, and so it worked out beautifully. He is a senior at Ada High School and will have an expense-paid trip. Lee mentioned to me that he would like to continue this. He's very proud of the work that Oklahoma is doing in aviation education, and he would like to offer more of these opportunities for our students to go to Oshkosh. So real excited about that. Obviously, I'd be delighted to stand for any questions, but that's the work for this month.
Has Edmond Public Schools exhibited
No,
any
I have
interest?
not met with them as of yet, but obviously I need to. And I failed to mention, I did have a very positive meeting with Tulsa Union this past week. They would like me to come back next month and visit with their assistant superintendent. Obviously, it would not be for fall of 22. It takes a lot for pre-enrollment in Tulsa Union and Tulsa Public Schools to get that information out, so it would be the following year, but they're very excited. But I do need to visit with Edmond Public Schools. You're exactly right.
Do you have any other questions?
Any other? Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Paula. Next up is item 9, Association for Uncrewed Vehicle Systems International Expo Conference. Mr. Doug Wood, we're ready for your presentation, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Secretary. So I've been here about 4 months. I'm glad to finally have something of substance to report for my position, but I did attend the conference in Orlando over the 25th through the 28th of April. This is, for those of you that are not familiar, this is a conference and trade show for all the breadth of unmanned systems from ground and air, from small UAS, large UAS for infrastructure inspection, from robotic dogs for public safety, for bomb disposal and things like that, up to the new freight hauling with unmanned semi-trucks. And so they covered the breadth of all of those things and everything associated with that. So a lot of the electronics, a lot of the unmanned systems to control those, battery technology, all of that was included in the conference. So I was primarily focused on the UAS and AAM side, although I paid attention because a lot of it has to do with the automated vehicle systems that we talk about as well. Oklahoma didn't have a state booth this year, so I partnered with OSU. They had a booth there, and they had several other state entities there. FISTA from Lawton was there. USRI, obviously from Oklahoma State. Tulsa Innovation Labs had a kiosk, and they were talking to people as well. So I appreciate Dr. Jamie Jacob having me attend with them, and had a great time with that group. Overall, the conference was a good one. There were a lot of network opportunities for me personally, so I could meet with a lot of the people that I've talked to on email or some of the webinars, but to get an opportunity to sit and talk with them individually one-on-one and discuss things down to the detail level was very valuable. Overall, the content of the conference, a lot of that we've seen before. As recently as the Emerging Aviation Technology Conference down at Durant, a lot of the presentations were the same. Some of that, or probably most of it's due to COVID and the fact that a lot of those agencies, the FAA, NASA, various organizations, have been putting out web content for the last couple of years. So even though a lot of it was a rehash, it was, again, valuable to talk with those people individually, the presenters that were there, be able to ask them questions, hear that information a second and sometimes a third time to understand it better. So that was of value. So several of the events that I attended, I'll go with the last one first, which is the FAA's Drone Symposium. They've had a number of topics that they talked about, most of it related to the integration of UAS and AAM into the national airspace. For those of you who aren't aware, the BV, what they call the Beyond Visual Line of Sight Advanced Rulemaking Committee, or the BV-LOS ARC report, came out in March. That was a group of about 90 people in industry and government that came together to kind of formulate recommendations for the FAA on rulemaking for how to integrate small UAS to large UAS and eventually the advanced air mobility piece into the national airspace. They had about 75% agreement on the entire report, according to what they said. Obviously, there's going to be disagreement, and you're probably never going to get 100%, but having 75% of the people involved agree with the total report was pretty good. And they said a significant number agreed with most of the report, so even above that 75%. But there were some things that are going to cause some issues and cause some questions. So they came out with a 385-page report. Obviously, well, I haven't read the entire thing yet. I'm slowly working my way through it, but the summary has a list of 5 specific items that they touched on. And we've may have talked about some of these before, but the first one is setting an acceptable level of risk to integrate unmanned systems with manned systems in the national airspace. Up until now, the FAA has taken basically a zero-tolerance approach. Zero risk at all in any of the operations you're conduct as a UAS operator should meet that standard that there's going to be no interaction with manned aircraft and there won't be any risk at all. So one of the things when you start talking about package delivery and long-range infrastructure inspection over power lines or pipelines and things like that, you're going to have conflict between manned and unmanned aircraft. And so they're revisiting that risk structure away from zero. That'll result in modifications of the right-of-way rules. Up until now, unmanned aircraft have to give right-of-way under every circumstance. So they're formulating specific rules for specific locations where there may be a requirement on the pilot to see and avoid unmanned aircraft based on the operations that are taking place in the specific locations. So that's pretty much the biggest bone of contention in terms of the report, and the disagreements that people had in that report was how to make that as safe as possible, but stay away from the zero risk and affect that. To do that, part of it is to increase the qualifications for the actual remote pilot. Up until now, you just had that Part 107 certification, and that pretty much covers all commercial operations. They're going to add additional stages, just like you have an instrument rating or commercial rating for manned aircraft. They're going to require additional training and additional certifications for those pilots. They're going to be conducting those operations out of line of sight. There's a whole section on the science of impact between drones and aircraft, and that's way above me, so I'll just slide right over that. And then they're going to adopt a non-mandatory regulatory approach to third parties being involved in the regulation of the airspace and providing data or collecting information to help with air traffic control management of those pieces. So. We've also been in discussion with several other states as far as what they've been doing to try to help with our plan. Virginia has been in conversation with Director Arties prior to my being hired, and I was able to spend time with their team from Virginia while I was there. John Eberhardt was in charge of that, and not only was that valuable to me to be able to speak with him about the systems that we're looking at maybe implementing here in Oklahoma, but he also had a number of contacts, and he basically drugged me around the show and introduced me to people, and I came home with a stack of business cards. So for me personally, that was a very valuable networking experience to be able to talk with him. And they had a social function that evening, and I attended as a guest of his at that function as well. Our partners from Oklahoma, from FISTA, from Tulsa Innovation Labs, and several others, Craig Mahaney from the U.S. Cluster Initiative put on a function at Topgolf. So we all came together for a social evening and talking about various things. I don't play golf well at all. I'm comedy relief on the golf course, so there was quite a bit of conversation about my lack of skill. But that was a great opportunity for just those folks from Oklahoma to come together and have a social evening together. So finally, some of the lessons learned, and this kind of came up at the Emerging Aviation Technology Conference in Durant. Before COVID, the future is coming. It's almost here. Post-COVID, it's here now. Whisk is already delivering in Dallas from Walgreens, so you're already seeing commercial package delivery in the national airspace, and they've got a whole system about how they're controlling that in a very localized area. But that will be a thing in a couple of years. You probably won't even notice when you look up that there are drones flying back and forth over the city delivering packages and things. That'll just be the way it is. As far as the future goes, there's still a huge separation between what I term the dreamers, which have great ideas, and it's a PowerPoint, and they're looking for funding, and the people that actually have working prototypes. Joby, Whisk, Aero, Archer all have prototypes that are in those final phases, hopefully being put in for certification, so we may start to see those in 10 or so years. And it's probably going to be package delivery first before personnel people delivery, just based on those risk factors that we talked about before. So you'll probably see some larger aircraft delivering freight or something that you wouldn't normally see. With that competition, there's a lot of people at that conference that aren't going to be there next year. Skyward was a company that's been around for 4 or 5 years in the UTM sphere. They had a booth at the show, and 2 days after the show, they folded. So half of the people that were there this year won't be next year. There'll be a lot of merging between companies. There'll be a lot of merging of technologies. Everybody's got their own charging systems, kind of like Tesla. Tesla has their proprietary charging system, and everybody else isn't on board with that. Once those will all have to merge. When you have vertiports in places where multiple aircraft are coming from different vendors, they'll all have to have one type of charging port for that to work. So there'll be a lot of that. And then finally, jobs. There's going to be tons of jobs in this sector, everything from the airplane and power plant for drones, for unmanned aircraft, for the AAM side, to the electrical capabilities, both for the aircraft themselves and the infrastructure of the state and where those things are going to be land and be charged. And then all of the IT stuff, data security, these unmanned aircraft that don't have a pilot, that'll be flying remotely, they don't want them hacked. So they'll have to have that data security. So there'll be computer jobs and everything related to that. So there was a lot at the conference. It was a bit overwhelming to walk past all these booths and talk to people and find the different things, especially since a lot of that is new to me. But it was a great experience. So we'll look and see what they've got for next year and whether it's another valuable trip. So, and with that, I'll stand for questions.
Sounds good. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you.
We have no further questions or comments. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Our next order of business is item 10, our 5-year airport construction program. Mr. Nick Young, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Secretary. As we talked about in March, we are offering forth several modifications and new additions to the airport construction program. And so following our March meeting, we moved into a 30-day comment period for our proposed ACP. No comments were received by staff during that time frame. So before you today, we are recommending these modifications and new additions to the planning document as we seek approval for the airport construction program for fiscal years 2023 to 2027. Aside from those projects I brought before you in March, there are only 3 new additions that we didn't discuss at that meeting. And so for total and modifications and new additions for this iteration of the ACP, we have 19 new projects that we're recommending and 13 modifications. I will go through these as we do typically here at our May meetings. If at any point we need to stop, slow down, or talk through any of these projects, again, I know you've heard these once before already, all but 3. And so I don't want to waste your time on there, but I do want to make sure that we have any conversation or clarification that any of you all need as we work along the way. The first project we have before you is a new project that we're recommending in the calendar year 2027. Again, I utilize calendar years for sake of ease since our state fiscal year does not line up with our federal fiscal year, so just want to make that clarification at the front. This is a project to reconstruct an area of their T-hangar taxi lanes that would be in conjunction with a local project to rehabilitate those taxi lanes as well. But for the sake of this project and what we are looking to partner with them on, this is solely for the taxi lanes at a total project cost of just under $600,000 anticipated for that, with the commission's portion at about $250,000 that would go in conjunction with some FAA funds and to the tune of about $300,000 for that particular project. At Ardmore Municipal Airport, this is an existing project we're recommending sliding forward by 2 years from 2025 to 2023. This is the first phase of their parallel taxiway project that they are needing desperately out there for an airport of that caliber. And so this is a $5.4 million project in which the commission would participate in half the local match at $250,000 for that. Again, existing project, we're just looking to slide it up a couple years, pending the availability from FAA discretionary funding, but we do anticipate that that should fall in line with that time frame. At Atoka Municipal Airport, this is a new addition that we did not talk about in March, and that is because we recently approved, thank you for approving, the airport siting study and master plan process for this new site location for the Atoka Municipal Airport that we all approved in April's meeting. So now that we have that approved and that siting study is underway, the soonest that we really believe that we'd be able to begin work on the runway as we work through that process, obviously a very long process with FAA, to establish a new airport location. So we wanted to go ahead and prepare for that project in the next iteration of the ACP in about the 2028 timeframe. So that would be their state fiscal year, about the federal fiscal year 2027. And so with that, we would be pursuing federal funds with that and partnering on that project. I anticipated about a $5 million project on that for the initial phase of that. And the commission would participate in the half of the local match as we pursue the discretionary funding for that project. Again, we'll see how that comes to fruition as we work through the siting study, the master planning process, and then eventually the environmental and all those types of things. But we wanted to make sure that we had that full plan outlined in the ACP so that we can move on down the road as those portions of the project come to fruition. Another new project that we did not talk about in March is at Bartlesville Municipal Airport, and this is a project to construct a taxi lane for T hangar development. This arose from a meeting that we had in late March with Commissioner Potter was able to join us out there to talk about some of the economic development opportunities out there at Bartlesville Municipal Airport. And so we discussed a project that they're working on right now to rehabilitate and expand some of the apron area out there. And then this would follow up with that to open up some of the areas to the east at the north end of the airport out there. They have several folks that are ready and willing to build out there. There's a couple of hangars that are essentially waiting in the wings, waiting for somewhere to be able to build upon out there. And so this is an opportunity to open up the economic development opportunities out there at Bartlesville. And this is a partnership that will participate in a portion of this project to the tune of $300,000 commission dollars, utilizing a lot of the airport infrastructure grant funding that's available to them out there through the BIL. Bipartisan infrastructure law to the tune of about $740,000 anticipated for a total project cost a little over $1.1 million for that project. At Chattanooga Sky Harbor Airport, this is a new project that we're recommending for 2025. Again, this is one of them that we discussed in March as well. This is a simple rehabilitation, reconstruction. There's portions that need reconstructed and others that just need rehabilitated for their primary apron out there at Chattanooga. This is a state grant, 95% OAC, 5% local split at a total project cost $400,000 with the commission share at $380,000. At Claremore Regional Airport, this is a new project that we are recommending in 2027. And this is to rehabilitate taxiway Alpha. And this is a FAA project that we are looking to pursue with them and partner on, the 5% match, half the local matches we typically do for a total project cost out there of $1.2 million. So again, just to keep in line with our airport pavement management system and keep them up to tune with their pavement maintenance needs so that we can extend the life as much as possible out there at Claremore. At CE Page in Oklahoma City, we have a couple of projects that we are looking to add to the ACP. The first one here in 2025, and this is to replace the PAPIs on their primary runway and also install PAPIs for the secondary runway. State grant at 95-5 split, total project cost $400,000. Commission share of that at $380,000 anticipated. The second project there at CE Page is in 2026, and that is to rehabilitate the taxiway Alpha. And so this is, again, simple joint seal spall repair in order to extend the life of the pavement out there. There might be a couple of small areas that need some reconstruction out there, but primarily a joint seal and spall repair for that. They look pretty good out there, but again, this is just part of the pavement management system to ensure we're getting the maximum life for as efficiently as possible with our dollars to put into that pavement out there at CE Page. At Durant Regional Airport, Acre Field down there in Durant, this is a new project we're proposing in 2027 to expand their terminal apron, as we've discussed in the past. A lot of congestion there whenever they get real busy, and so we are pursuing FAA funds for that project and participating in half of the local match for the commission share at $175,000 of that. Total project cost out there after design and construction anticipated about $3.8 million for that. At El Reno Regional Airport, there are 3 projects that we are simply looking to slide back 1 year. The first of those is their terminal building project, and that is because the city has recently selected a new consultant, airport consultant, that'll help them through with this project and take this to fruition. Obviously, we know that we lost our friend Adam Fox out there, but they do have a new airport manager out there now as well. So now with both of those key pieces, Bailey Kinnemer is her name, and then with their new consultant, all the parties out there will be looking to now move forward on these projects that have simply slid back a year. So again, with the construction of the terminal building out there, $1.5 million total project cost, with the commission participating in the standard $500,000 for that. The second project out there at El Reno is to rehabilitate the runway. Again, it's pretty standard joint seal and spall repair to the tune of just a little over $766,000. The commission share that $570,000. So that's primarily a state grant supplemented with a little bit of MPE funding out there to get that project completed and extend the life of their pavement out there for their primary runway. And the last project that we're recommending moving back 1 year for El Reno is the construction of their taxi lane for the hangar development. And that's, again, just to move in line with the terminal building moving back a little bit, because we would anticipate that would occur after the terminal building has been completed. At Enid Woodring Regional Airport, this is the last of the new projects that we did not talk about in March, and this is the construction taxi lane for hangar development there as well. They are very crowded out there. They have a long waiting list and have several folks that are waiting and ready to build out there as well. So this is, again, to offer up an economic development opportunity out there to install some new hangar storage as well as business development out there at Enid Woodring. And this is for a total project cost anticipated about $750,000, with the commission participating at just a little under $240,000 out there. And primarily that's used, the way that came out to is they're using, again, some of their non-primary entitlement FAA funds or AIG funds, and then us supplementing with that to the tune of what we believe that planning number is for this point in time. Obviously, those numbers will get a little bit more accurate as we get closer to it. At Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport, this is to add in their new construction building to the 2027 timeframe in the ACP. Total project cost out there is anticipated just under $2.5 million on that. They are trying to utilize some of their FAA funds, AIG funds to put toward that. And then, of course, our $500,000 that we'd standardly participate in from the OAC share there. Also at Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport, this is a project that's existing currently that we're simply looking to slide forward 1 year to line up with FAA discretionary funding. Total project cost just under $6.5 million there. Commission share half of the local match at $300,000. Why the relocation and that is necessary? So it doesn't meet standards, the separation standards. So all of that was the part to the north does, as we can see there. That is out to the full length, but it's just as they grew and the regulations changed and all that kind of stuff. That's why they didn't have the land there as well. So there's been they had to acquire the land in order to get to the spec, and now that they are trying to meet the spec that is required in order to use federal funds for that. On to the next project there at Hobart Regional Airport. This is a project to rehabilitate their runway. Total project cost anticipated about $4 million. It's ready for a nice full rehabilitation. We will do a crack seal coat here to get us to that point, as we're looking to add this in the 2027 timeframe, and the commission share being half the local match at $200,000 on that proposed. At Medill Municipal Airport, this is a project to construct a new runway out there again. This is very similar to what we were just talking about at Guthrie. Is they have some issues with separation standards, so there's no ways that they would ever be able to get to a parallel taxiway or any of those that can really, there's already some separation issues for the existing hangars as well. And so they are looking to do something similar to what we did out in Bristow to build a new runway out there to the east. However, what they're working on right now is the justification for that, to be able to use FAA funding for that project. And as we talked about a little bit in March, that justification piece has been very tough during COVID. Obviously, a lot of the operations that were there maybe aren't or haven't come back yet, or if they are, they didn't have the data to back that up from the FAA databases that are typically used for that justification. So they are still working through that process. They are still trying to get letters of interest in those who have left because of the issues out there. There are folks that want and need a longer and wider runway. And so as they're working on that justification, we're simply looking to slide this back and partner with it as they're able to get that justification and move the federal dollars toward that. So our portion of that would, if and when it goes forward, be half the local match, anticipated about $250,000 for that. At Mex Westheimer in Norman, this is the second phase of their parallel taxiway rehabilitation and reconstruction. We're simply requesting to move this back 2 years to the 2026 timeframe. They're currently working through trying to get their air traffic control tower replaced. And so as they do that, and once they do that, they'll need a few years in order to get their bank their funds so that they can then meet their match for another discretionary project on down the road for their taxiway system. So again, it's just giving them the time to bank their funds for that project. At McAllister Regional Airport, this is simply a request to move their terminal building project up 1 year to 2024. Total project cost out there is anticipated about $1.5 million terminal building, and the commission share the standard $500,000 for that. At Mid-America Industrial Airport in Pryor, Oklahoma, this is a new project we're proposing toward the end of the ACP, about the 2027-2028 timeframe. And this is for runway and taxiway extension and strengthening. They have a lot of folks out there on the industrial park that are coming in that have large aircraft that they either can't fly in or can only fly in every now and then due to the weight-bearing capacities, or if it's too hot in the summer, those types of things. So they have a lot more demand out there given the companies that have been moving out there and establishing themselves on the industrial park. So in order to accommodate the need and the growing demand out there, this is pursuing federal dollars to do the taxiway and runway extension and the strengthening for a tune of just shy of anticipated $6.5 million on that, with the commission share half the local match on the construction portion of that project, anticipated about $300,000. At Pawhuska Municipal Airport, this is a new project we're recommending to include 2023 timeframe, and this is a simple rehabilitation out there starting to deteriorate, and want to make sure that we can get a rehabilitation in so that we don't find ourselves having to do a major reconstruction sooner rather than later out there at Pawhuska. And they have a lot of good things going out there. They have a couple of new business developments out there. As a matter of fact, you can see some of them there on the slide there, the bottom right. And so they have a couple of crop dusters that are built out there and a couple of businesses established there at the airport now. So the total project cost anticipated about $750,000 on that rehabilitation, with the commission share about $713 there anticipated. No FAA funds available for Pawhuska. That's a state-only airport out there.
So it's not the FAA system then?
Right. At Robert S. Kerr Airport in Poto, Oklahoma, this is a suggestion to simply move back 1 year to 2025, the extension and rehabilitation of the runway out there in Poto. Very similar to Medill. They're still working on their justification. Matter of fact, they're going through that process right now with Lochner. I saw a report come through here not too long ago as where they're trying to start establishing that and get the information FAA is needing for that. And so as they work through that, just giving them some additional time to get the justification needed for the FAA dollars out there. Total project cost anticipated about $5.5 million, with the commission share at about $540,000. So that includes both a local match, but then part of those funds for the state funds would go to rehabilitate the existing runway. That way it's all done at once. And that way we don't have to close it later on down the road to rehabilitate the portion that didn't get constructed. At Salisaw Municipal Airport, we have 3 total projects we'll talk about here. The first 2 are actually just breaking them out from one project into 2. So there was some electrical and some apron and taxiway pavement items that were lumped together. We broke that out for just kind of make that easier to see what was going on with each portions of that project. So same spot, same place, basically the same price as well, just showing it broken out a little bit differently here. So the first portion here is to install the LED runway lights, lighted windsock and bolt, for a total project cost just over, anticipated about just $600,000. The commission share partnering with some FAA funds there being at $100,000 for that. The second portion of that project we broke out into its own project here to make it a little bit easier to kind of see where those things were going, is for the apron and taxiway. So again, this is just a state-only grant for this, just for, again, a simple rehabilitation of the apron and the taxiway to extend the life of those prior to needing a full reconstruction later on down the road. and to extend the life of the pavement out there. Just about $211,000 anticipated. Again, a simple rehabilitation with the commission share at about $200,000 of that, and that's a standard 95.5 state grant proposed for that project. And the third project there at Salisaw Municipal is to construct their new terminal apron. This would be after the Guthrie one, about the 2027, 2028 timeframe. Anticipated project cost out there $1.75 million, with the commission participating in $500,000 as is standard. So they're really excited to move forward with their new terminal building out there. They've got some old facilities, but some good facilities, and so marrying some of the good facilities with the replacement of that terminal, I know they're really looking forward to that. At Seminole Municipal Airport, this is a project we're proposing to move up 1 year to 2024. This is the realignment of their parallel taxiway system. Total project cost about $3.6 million, with our portion half the local match on the construction portion of that grant at $175,000. And again, this just move it up 1 year to capture some of the discretionary that looks like it's going to become available sooner rather than later. At Shawnee Regional Airport, this is suggestion to slide back 1 year the rehabilitation and expansion of the terminal apron out there. Again, primarily the lineup of what we think the discretionary funding is going to look like in that time frame. Total project cost $2.7 million, with the commission share about $125,000 on that one. Coming down the home stretch here, South Grand Lake Regional Airport. This is the project to construct their parallel taxiway system, and they have requested that we slide that project in our ACP back 2 years, and this is to allow them to come up with the match funding for the FAA grants that are going to be available to them. And as we know, they often pass the hat out there for their sponsor matches, and so that's just to allow them the time to collect the funds they need to get the parallel taxiway underway out there here in the next few years. Total project cost about $5.8 million out there, with the commission share about $271,000. These numbers do seem very specific. As I mentioned before, usually if we have planning level numbers, I try to round them out so that we don't think that they're very specific, but whenever we get numbers from engineers' reports and stuff like that, we do like to try to use the numbers that we have, and so that we can trace back to where those came from as well. And at Tahlequah Municipal Airport, this is a new project we're proposing for 2025. This is to rehabilitate the runway and install the runway lights. Total project cost about $900,000 for this one, with the commission share participation at $380,000 proposed for that project. At Tulsa Riverside and Tulsa, this is a new project we're recommending adding to 2023. This is phase 2. This was requested by FAA as they're working through that right now preliminarily and getting the design and full scope ironed out for phase 1. Recognizing that there's going to be a need for a phase 2 out there, given the complexities and the different things going on out there at Tulsa Riverside. So at the request of FAA, simply proposing this to add a second phase in 2023, and we will partner with FAA funds, participate in half the local match, and as far as we know from FAA right now, still looking about $3.3 million on phase 2 as well, but we will see how far we get with phase 1 and modify as needed as we learn what that number comes to look like for phase 2. The last two here, Weatherford, Stafford, Oklahoma. This is a new project we're recommending for 2025. This is to replace their taxiway lighting system and also to remove a couple of sections of pavement that are no longer usable or needed. Again, some design standard changes and stuff like that. But total project cost about $544,000. The commission share anticipated at $200,000 for that project. And last but certainly not least is at Wiley Post in Oklahoma City. This is a project we're proposing to add in 2027 for the design and construction of rehabilitation for taxiway Bravo out there. This is primarily going to be local funds to the tune of about $1 million, but supplementing with some FAA and commission funds, and so for a total project cost of $2 million. And so they request that we have help with some of that, some of the difference there in matching the funds, and so commission share about $42,500, and $915 of that's going to be a mixture of NPE and again AIG funding from the airport. And so with that, that is all of the projects and changes that we are recommending for the next iteration of the airport construction program. Yes, sir.
I apologize for not asking earlier. In the
Fine.
middle project of the 3 in El Reno, our share was twice that of the FAA's, it appeared?
Yes, so with this is a mixture, it's primarily a state-only grant, and they're just using some of their available FAA funds. They'll have about 150,000 of MPE funds to utilize at that time. Now, with AIG funds and those types of things, obviously, that was kind of coming online as we were building this out. But essentially, we'll use whatever funds are available from FAA, and then that's the funds that we'll recommend to use from the commission will be to supplement that to get the full scope done. So essentially, we're using FAA funds first, and then whatever that difference is what would be our remainder.
Sounds like that's FAA leftovers.
Kind of. It's trying to figure out where we land based off of what they have in the pipeline, and obviously there's been a couple different changes out there as well. So once we have a clear view of what they have available from MPE funds as well as AIG funds, we'll have a better idea what that looks like coming from them. But since typically whenever we don't have a good grasp of that, we'll use the lower figure and then work it in as we go.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Don't think so. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to approve the 5-year ACP as proposed?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Do we have a second?
I didn't know if you were saying second or you wanted to.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Conway.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion passes. The next order of business is item 11, our 5-year report, airport construction grant program, automated weather system package. Mr. Young?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with this line item, we are asking the commission to consider authorizing staff to enter into a contract for the construction of our first AWAS package. So we have received bids back for the first group of AWAS projects. That includes replacement systems at Claremore Regional, Grove Regional, and Salisaw Municipal, as well as a full new install at South Grand Lake Regional Airport. Total project cost for all of these, for this full group, is $528,925. This would be a standard 95.5 grant for these projects, with the commission share at $502,478, and the sponsored matching funds of $26,447. I will note that there were several of the folks, representatives, both from the consultants and the airports, that wish they could be here today. Lisa's on vacation up there in Grove. Claremore couldn't make it, and so they have all let me know that they are very appreciative of this opportunity. And one note, if you don't mind, Brent Howard from South Grand Lake Regional really wished that he could be here and asked that I pass along a short message, if you don't mind. As we typically do, you can see that there's not a whole lot of folks with us. There's many different meetings going on this morning, so from all the folks that have asked me to pass along their appreciation to you, just wanted to make sure I took the time to do so. And with Brent, he did notice that them at South Grand Lake Regional Airport, they have gone from 15 based aircraft in January to now having 25 currently, and another 2 are on the way in July. And that includes 3 different jets and 6 multi-engine, and the rest a mixture of primarily single engine, but a few helicopters as well. He mentions that this AWAS is vital to the continued growth and safety of the airport, and he certainly appreciates the consideration. And so with that, staff recommends approval, and I stand for any questions.
How many airports is this $502,000 cover, or $528,000?
4 airports.
Okay.
And the only thing other thing that I would note is that obviously whenever you go forth and get a bid, we wish that we could do that for all of these, but part of the increased cost is the fact that we did have to go through a design process, a bid process, and so I do understand that certainly these can be bought cheaper. It's just as we've in order to go through the process, since we have to go through the public bidding process, that's what increases the cost a little bit. But actually these are the ones that we got back were actually about anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 less than what we anticipated and what the engineers had estimated prior to going to bid. It's unfortunate the state that those are in with the FAA-approved systems right now, but staff was very happy with the bid prices that did come back.
All right, sir. Do we have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I might make a comment here that this was the first opportunity for us to implement our new law and abilities that was passed in 2021. Thank you, Secretary Gatz, for your staff and your office engineer. Gentleman that his name is escaping me right now, But this was a great process. I think this goes to show you some of those modernization things that we're able to take advantage of. We use the ODOT bidding system to bid this out. And by all accounts, I think this will be the first of hopefully many opportunities to do so. So we're implementing the 2021 law. First time to do it. Went smoothly. I think we'll be able to do it again as projects warrant.
And Mr. Secretary, that was Anthony. Anthony was a huge help.
Anthony Dales, yeah. Yep.
Thank you very, very much. Do we have a motion to approve this AWAS package?
Move approval.
Do we have a second? Second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Conway.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The motion passes. The next order of business is item 12, our airport construction grant program consent docket. Commissioners, please remember that any or all the items on this consent docket can be considered individually.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman.
Najabi, you're
Good morning,
recognized.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, and Mr. Secretary. We have 6 projects for construction grant program today, and as you mentioned, you can vote them individually if you wish to. The first project that we have is at Frederick Regional Airport, and the project is to rehabilitate the runway 1735 lighting system and install the new PAPI. The total cost is over $787,000. FAA share is over $446,000. The state fund is over $276,000, and the sponsor match is over $64,000. The next project is at Goldsby, David J. Perry. If you go to next slide, please. Okay. The project is to rehabilitate the apron and install perimeter fencing, and I think Mr. Ryan Nelson is here. Nope. Okay, he was supposed to be here anyway. The total cost for this project is over $570,000. The FAA share is over 60%. The state grant fund is over $171,000, and the sponsor matching is over $48,000. Next project is at Grove. The project is to rehabilitate the runway and runway lights. The total cost for this project is shy of $3.6 million. FAA share is 90%. State grant fund and the sponsor matching, each one of them going to be 5%, which equals $179,000 for this project. Next one at Muskogee. The project is to rehabilitate the runway 1331 lights, PAPI's beacon, electrical vault, and the home run. The total cost is over $1 million. Again, FAA share is 90%, and the estate and the sponsor matching, each one of them 5%, which equals $53,000. At Hugo, next slide, please. We're going to construct one new box hangar. Originally, this project was supposed to be 4 hangar, but because of the bed and the budget that we had, we could just do 1 hangar for this project. The total cost is over $105,000. Sponsor matching is over $73,000, and the state grant fund is over $31,000. Last but not least, at Thomas, we're going to construct a new box hangar. I know Mr. Rodney's here. Got some word. You may have some word. If you want to talk about this a bit.
Appreciate the time to speak, Secretary, Chairman, and Commissioners, and Director Arties and staff. We've worked a long time, actually before my time, with the Aeronautics Commission. Started in 1964 with $5,000 to get Thomas started. I know the history of the airport very well, if anyone ever cares to ask. We've been known as kind of the busiest little airport in western Oklahoma unofficially. We've grown tremendously with the help of the FAA, local people, commission, and several others that I can't mention all of them, but this hangar project has been a blessing to our staff, through the airport authority and the city, and we appreciate it. We're very thankful for the opportunity to expand kind of more into the corporate realm and help our town with bringing in more tax dollars through our airport and showing them how that system will work and benefit our citizens and all the community. So we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rodney. The total cost for this project is $850,000, and the state grant fund gonna be less than $510,000, and the sponsor matching is less than $340,000. With that, I'm standing for any question you may have, but the staff recommends approval.
You mentioned one section in there about, I'm sorry, 3 airports ago, about the home run. I'm not familiar with that term. Is that the back end of the runway?
No, the home run is the electrical circuit that goes from the vault building out to a centralized point, and then it'll spider out from there. So that's the home run, is basically that main electrical vault, or main electrical cabling from the vault out to the center point of the airport, where it then spiders out and goes to support all the other electrical systems of the airport.
I'm gonna say I never landed on a home run, but okay.
No, if you landed on the home run, you'd be doing some problems, because you'd have to be digging down probably about 18 to 24 inches in the ground, and we don't want you doing that with an
Yeah.
airplane.
Okay.
Good question. sir.
All right, sir. Do we have any further discussion on this?
You got a question, Rick?
Yes, I'm Kyle Davis, City Manager of Frederick. Sorry, got here late, traffic, I just want to come here before, I'm a new city manager, been here about 3 months. I'm Frederick. I want to take the time to thank y'all and appreciate y'all looking into our grant package here. The PAPI lights and the new LED lights will be beneficial to our airport, with Shepherd Air Force Base using that for NATO training. That's where they started out there, all their NATO pilots at, right there. So I just came to want to thank you and appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. All right, if we have no further questions, do we have a motion to approve this consent document as presented?
I so move.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
Commissioner Conway.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Commissioner Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Chairman Hunter.
Aye. The motion passes. Next order of business is item 13, review of upcoming aviation and aerospace events. Sandra?
Thank you, Commissioners. There's a lot, it's summer, it's time to fly. And there's a lot going on. I do want to tell you about just a couple of things. On May 23rd, Alaska Airlines is having their 20th year with their partnership with AAR. And if you want to go out to Will Rogers with me and Director Arties, I would love to take you out there, Mr. Secretary, if you'd like to see it. It's a really big deal, and they're trying to do an expansion there at AAR, and so I'd love to have you with us there. And also, the Aviator Ball is this weekend. Miss Keedy and I are going. A lot of times, people ask us to come to their events because they need us to help make their legislators feel welcome or just welcome the community, and we are always happy to do that. So if you have an event at one of your airports that you would like for us to come to, please let me know. Chickasha Wings Wheel and Car Show is going to be June 4th. And the Altus Air Force Base, I think, is working with the Aeronautics Commission through Chris Wadsworth. And October 1, they are having a air show there at Altus Air Force Base. We're looking forward to that. And on May 28th, the Tri-State EAA Chapter 115 is having a Memorial Day flying. Is that right? It says Woodward.
Not familiar with it. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
There is a runway run on June 25th at Tulsa Air and Space Museum. And then on July 16th, the World War II Airborne Demonstration Team is having an open hangar day. And September 2nd, Pioneer Day at Skytook is occurring. So we're also working on many other things. And so one thing that the Aeronautics Commission is working on for this Memorial Day, we are inviting 600 soldiers, sailors, and airmen to watch Top Gun 2 with us at the Moore Warren Theater. We have a lot of partners, and our partner is the Air Force Association Garrity Chapter. We want to thank our military for all that they do for us, and so we're proud to partner with the people with Tinker Air Force Base. I met the JAG this week, and that was exciting. So I was telling Commissioner Putnam about that yesterday. So we've been navigating some things. I've learned a lot, and so I'll leave it at that. But we're excited to have those soldiers, sailors, and airmen. If you'd like to come, Mr. Secretary, you're welcome to come as well and watch a movie with us, have some popcorn, and celebrate our military service members in the state of Oklahoma. I'd be happy to yield for any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from commissioners?
I have a comment. There's a nationwide Learn to Fly Day on the 21st of May, Saturday. EAA chapters 24, 16, 12, and 1098 will be hosting that at the Sundance Airport for anybody who'd like to learn how to fly.
I think we need to send that out, Paula, to our schools. Okay, sir. We'll get with you offline on
Saturday,
that.
the 21st, 9 a.m.
Okay,
We'll have an orientation, and when they get done with the orientation and questions and talking to the IBs, then we'll take them flying.
okay. Sounds good.
0005 is having one as well, and
Awesome. And we also are Young Eagles, and on the 28th, which is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend.
Okay,
Same location.
great. Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Item 14, are there any, or I'll entertain any concluding remarks regarding agenda items at this time? Director Arties?
No, Mr. Chairman, I think I'm good. Just thank you all for your continued support this spring, and look forward to seeing everybody out and about flying at various events. We do plan to have some celebrations this summer as well as projects come to a conclusion. We have a couple of terminal buildings, Weatherford and Bristow. We may have a runway in Watonga that we're going to celebrate towards the latter part of the summer. So I know we've taken a pause on that since the last three big celebrations we had, and we were just kind of waiting, honestly, for some projects to finish to celebrate. So look forward to some of that, and we'll obviously be tapping you all for your attendance, and of course, Mr. Secretary, tapping you as well.
Thank you very much, Grayson. Our next meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, July 13th, 2022, on the first floor of the conference room of the Oklahoma Department of Transportation at 200 Northeast 21st Street in Oklahoma City.
July 13th.
Did I not say July 13th? Okay. All right. Next item 16, is there any new business? Then I adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.